because of who I am, this is why I'm going to be doing that desk. This is why I am straight fire. Because you know how last year I did that reflection series with Snax and I was really respectful in it and I asked him all about his career and how's he in-game leader. Well, you know what? The bad point for this fucking show, because that's right, you always have to understand this, and he gets the game, is the interview with Thorin ain't the same Thorin that's on fucking shows, and he isn't the same guy in real life, Duncan. So the guy on shows is just going to say, my bad point is all the Snax narratives. Because, bro, you would think for real he just won the major. That is the way people just reacted. You would think he won the major and he dropped the 30 bomb and won a 1v4 to win it. It's insane, these narratives. First of all, people for real are doing the narrative of apologise because you said he wouldn't be good. What am I apologising for, cocksucker? I still have that same opinion. You do realise, by the way, this is like the Hooxi one. This is what's going to actually... I can't take it, please. I have to get out of there. This isn't even real. None of this is real. This is like if you saw season 1 of Altered Carbon. There's an episode, I think it's episode 4, where he's getting tortured inside his mind by someone who's trying to break him and sort of inside of a dream or whatever. I feel like that's what esports is, because I just got out of that whole Hooxi thing where I kept trying to point out to you that Hooxi isn't even a bad IGL. I never thought that. I just thought in CS2 he had the craziest lineup of really good players for the roles I think I've seen in the latter years of the game, and they could absolutely win you games that weren't based off a genius call or an amazing strat call. And so sometimes I just thought to myself, I'd rather, guess how this is aged, that was Alexi B, or that was, look, you'll say this is aged, but that was Snappy, or something, Chewy, or whatever. I would rather one of those people made you not just a good tip, but the best. Now, the problem with the Snax one is it's going to be the Hooxi narratives all over again. The logic's going to go, because he's won, he must be a really good IGL. He must be a really good IGL for this team, and he must be the one. That's why they're all doing these things, which I don't get whatsoever. Because if I look at their team, you're right back in the fucking Hooxi zone, except without, at least Hooxi had a baseline of calls I could see that looked legit. He had adaptations that looked legit. He had a map pool that was half decent. If I'm Snax, right? So I have Malbs, who runs onto sites on T-side sometimes, clearly not as part of a strat. 1 bullets, 2 people in the head. That isn't a strat. For anyone else, that isn't replicatable. If you didn't see that stat thing that was shown on Twitter recently, his headshot percentage is fucking mental. That isn't Snax telling him to do that, by the way. And it wasn't the lack of someone with headshot aim and gamer legion that didn't make his strats work at the top level. Then you've got Nico. We've just seen Nico could even IGL with Hooxi's strats, be a star player and win an event without Hooxi there or Snax there. So actually, if anything, we've sort of tested that Nico plays... spoiler, here's why I think the Snax pickup isn't terrible. Because I actually think Nico himself is so smart as a player intuitively in the game. He doesn't want a lot of man management. The joke is that's probably the real reason he doesn't fuck with Alexi and Carrigan. He doesn't want them to take over and tell him where to go and what to do. He wants to make that call because he's Nico. The problem he has, though, I'll always say this to him, is the other players aren't Nico, though. Hunter isn't Nico, bro. Some of the other players need the guy who's going to lead you in that way. Then I'll say similarly, this is why I can't give him too much credit. Monacy was doing this shit before. If anything, I actually think Monacy looks a little bit subdued with Snax compared to how he was with Hooxi. I think actually Hooxi probably did a good job with Monacy. Because with the Monacy angle, the reason I say Monacy's the best player in the world is because he looks like he has crazy... This is where he's simple. He looks like he has his own agency completely. He doesn't look like Wonderful. There's no universe Wonderful's even allowed to make the moves Monacy makes in a game. He actually has the real sort of the fucking the line on the map of where he's going basically and what time and he's getting there. That doesn't exist for Monacy because he's Monacy. So to me, I don't really know what genius people are saying. I will say I've got some forthcoming content where someone tells me a bit about Snax's past calling in a past team. And they did say things like he can see some interesting angles in the game and he'll call ballsy players and he's willing to call the old tier 1 players, even if he has lesser players, which by the way is probably why it wasn't as good in Game Legion and that it wasn't terrible. So I don't know. I just can't handle that people have sort of taken this as cause he won, everything said before was wrong. And all notice... We always make this point, it's like predictions. It doesn't matter if the prediction's wrong, if Pimp made analysis which logically made sense and was based on real things. It just means that time it didn't happen. There's variance in the game. So I want to see where you two are at on this one. Where you at on the Snax narratives? Come on, Steeko. I thought, by the way, you did a very fair job, considering you're on the fucking blast desk, of actually sort of putting a little bit of cooling water on the narrative so it didn't go too crazy on this one. So where you at on this topic?
Yeah, I definitely... Well, I agree with you, and also what Apex said during the blast was pretty nice. That they were up against G2, and they were thinking the team is the firepower is stronger than previous G2, but the tactical part is just lacking. And I loved it because Loki just saying that the Snax pickup just didn't make them better when it comes to strats or calling, but he's low-key praising Malps for the pickup.
Yes.
Because Malps is doing something that Nexa would never.
Yes.
Like it's incomparable how good of a pickup that is, and that is kind of also shadowing the fact that Snax could pick it up, because you're looking at it as a
well, it's like with Hooxi, right? Remember, Hooxi and JKS got picked. I tell you, Alexi B told me this in his interview. He wishes he'd had a shot with JKS. Like, how can he compare us when he had JKS? I had fucking Jax. So it's the same concept, right? It looks like the IGL did everything.
Yeah, and for the Snax point of view, I think he's a mega creative player, but I feel like the creativity goes down when he's actually playing the game. I think when he's on empty server, that's when he's like kind of in the zone, and he gets to create the like situations, protocols, smoke plays, all that kind of things that he was known for even in CSGO. But once the game hits, he's doing just predictable stuff where it's bound to happen that if you're not doing something a little bit crazy or something a little bit risky to create an edge for the rest of your team, it's just going to down spiral in you having bad performance. And this is what we've noticed in Blast. I think first day of the event, I came in and I'm saying to Pimp, like, yo, Snax has like 21 games in a row that he has not had positive KD. And at that point, it just became a meme for the rest of the tournament. We were just walking into the green room and thinking, did Snax have yesterday positive KD? And we're like, no. And everyone is low-key like cheering, okay, the streak is alive. And like, that's the thing. I understand the point of view that you just cannot outfrag people in your team if you have Monesi, Malps, and Nico. But at the same time, this is very much confidence issues from what people were saying in the interviews on G2 side. And in the final, they were giving free frags, like eco frags to Snax to just build that confidence. And I think that's, again, dangerous mindset to have and a dangerous thing to do. You shouldn't just set up your player to gain confidence. The confidence should be coming from within the performance of the team, especially when you're IGL. Like, don't give IGL the eco frags and then tell me that the hate that he's getting from social media or analyst desk is not affecting him, because it clearly is. Like, you're making something that you wouldn't otherwise be doing. And
he also sometimes has the gun when other people don't. That's going to make people hate on you if you die, mate. That's a real thing.
Yeah, and the angle that you said about Nico being smart and not liking to be micromanaged, it kind of also stands with what I want to say is that I think what G2 did at this event cannot be replicated if the G2 stays the same way it is. Like, they are not doing some crazy double fakes. They're not doing something out of ordinary. They're not creative enough as Kerrigan is, for example, in pressure rounds. They're just going and brute forcing their way through because of the aim and pure skill and clutches. And to my mind, like, if Snax doesn't pick up the slack when it comes to individual form, I don't think G2 is going to lift another trophy this year, and this might come back and bite me in the ass, but it's just not unreasonable take at all. Like, I feel like this, I don't want to say this was a fluke, but it was like more of all the other teams are underperforming rather than G2 are overperforming. I think G2 played just a standard Counter-Strike and they carried themselves through with a trio of Malps, Nico, and Monesi. So yeah, I think this is not sustainable enough for G2.
I posted that on Twitter, the apologies to Snax, and I feel like I need to differentiate this again. I've talked about this on stream, on YouTube videos. I'll say it here too. Like, the persona I bring for the stream is just like pure entertainment, and I know that people might think that's not like becoming of an analyst to like have these different personas, but it's like you should fit the product that you're actually on, which is why Twitter is the way that it is for me. Streaming is what it is for me. YouTube is different too. Podcasts are what they are too. And I mean, the apology to Snax, it's actually, in some ways, it's actually even more tongue-in-cheek than the Nafany apology letter. Let's just put it like that. That was like a full-on bit that I was going with there. And for Snax, I actually want to, I said on one of the, I couldn't find it, but like one of the earliest podcasts I did with the Snax move is that I criticized it. And I said one of the worst parts about this move was that this team can still win the off tournament because there's so much firepower on the team. And with just the way CS2 is played, if you have 3 players that are just exceptional at their roles in terms of fragging ability, then you can win a tournament like this. And for all intents and purposes, this is kind of the perfect tournament to do it. Like, Blast's fall finals, spring finals, world finals, it's an 8-team tournament. You know, by the end of the tournament, you're playing like 10 maps, maybe, or like 12, maybe a little bit more than that. Like Monacy played 14 maps at this tournament, for example, and even the players on Navi played 11 maps. That's with playing the BO5 Grand Finals. Like you can make it through with an exceptionally small sample size of games, and the likelihood that you can just kind of upset is much higher because you just have to do it less. Like the first matchup was not hard. Second, I mean, I think the fact that they beat Vitality and Navi back to back is extremely impressive for G2, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily because Snax has unlocked whatever it needs to be to win tournaments. Like, are they a top 3 team for me to win the major? Yeah, I would put them with Navi and Vitality because I think something like this could unfold once again, especially given the fact that you're going to play a Swiss system into potentially just 3 BO3s in the playoffs. And yeah, that's like how a lot of tournaments run. Like you can win tournaments like that. It's not like we're playing the Premier League where you have to be tested over like, you know, a 50-game span and whoever has the best win record. I would give that to Navi in a heartbeat. If I was just saying all of the teams in the top 20 play a round robin for like 20 times, I'm going to take Navi in that simulation every time right now. Like they're just way better in terms of consistency. Off days don't seem to affect them as much. Their floor is much higher as a team. Like this G2 team definitely, like, come on, if Malbs isn't getting a double entry onto a ancient bomb site, like what are we working with here? Like what's the fallback
That
plan?
map is the most
secondary
egregious
call?
one too. That's the one where he just fucking like makes them like twice as good as they should be on that map.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like Donk's the same thing with Spirit, but the thing is with Spirit, who do you have in the back lines? You got Magix and you got a passive Opera and Shiro versus G2. Oh, you mean that Nico and Monacy are following this guy who didn't get the entry? I think you're still going to be fine most of the time. So I'm not really too worried about it. And you can make the thing is, like, Kerrigan said it himself. Like, we praise Kerrigan a lot. I still think he's one of the best in-game leaders in the world, top 3. He said himself, like, you know, he was able to call differently once Rops came in versus Olaf Meister. Like, he could call different strats. They don't need to try to be outbraiding all the time. They can be a little bit more brute force because Kerrigan knows exactly how to adapt his playbook to the players that he has. And that's not a slight to any of these in-game leaders. Like, it's the same kind of thing where fans almost like will use this line as if like you can't criticize teams, where they say for Vitality at the Paris Major, you can only play who's in front of you, and at the same time, like they want to praise Snax, but it's like, well, he can only call with the players that are in front of him, because when he called with Gamer Legion, they were bad. I don't want to go through this retconning of like, oh, they were doing well. They didn't qualify for the major, and they also had the worst T-side round win percentage of all top 20 teams. Like when Snax was calling, and I know that he was trying to do too much, but that's an inability to recognize with the players that he had on Gamer Legion that he was calling a style that didn't suit them. Like, you need to probably simplify your playbook, you know, make things just easier for them. Like, one stage this, second stage this, like just make it super easy. But he's trying to be this like 200 300 IQ mastermind, because and like he's trying to play the game like it's chess when like he only has checkers in front of him. But now you have players that you can kind of play any style and it's gonna work. Like, you could really put in so many different in-game leaders, and we saw it with like, you can talk about this winning a tournament thing with the fact that, dude, Nico was calling and they won a tournament too. Like, is Nico as good of an in-game leader as Snax? Like, I don't, like, the argument doesn't really work that that Snax is some great in-game leader when Nico did the same thing and he had Nexa and Stewie 2K. If anything, from the results this year, I think Nico is still a better in-game leader than Snax. I still think that, because if he's able to win with Nexa and Stewie versus Malbs, like, what? And he's also degrading his own performance because he's calling. Then that to me is like the one-to-one comparison where I still think I still think Nico as in-game leader would just be better than this if they got another fragger. I actually do.
By the way, another episode of Narrative Whiplash. You are the same fucking fans who kept saying we can never cut Hooxi unless it is literally Carrigan, Apex, or like, I can't remember the third one with Chopper coming through the door. You were the fans that said that to us for literally like a fucking 8 months or something mental. You told us we were the haters. Now you're like, Hooxi? Fuck Hooxi. I don't even think you should be IGL of Australis. Like, I can't handle it. The Narrative Whiplash is crazy. It's fucking crazy, and it's so wild. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.